My name is Bianca Harrington, and I'm 31 years old. Today, I'm going to tell you how we got to that moment, how my own mother decided my daughter's body was a classroom and her pain was a lesson. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear more real stories like this. Stories people will tell you are dramatic until a police report says otherwise. I'm 31, a single mother to my 6-year-old daughter, Harper. Her father, my ex-husband Kyle, left when she was 18 months old, just vanished one day. No goodbye, no note, no more bottles on weekends, no more tiny shoes by his couch, no more hurried texts about picking up diapers. No contact, no child support, nothing. So I raised Harper alone, working as a pharmacy technician while grinding through my degree in physical therapy. I'd come home smelling like antiseptic and generic lotion, put a frozen pizza in the oven, and study until my eyes burned, while Harper colored at the table beside me. Money was always tight. There were nights when groceries and gas were a math problem I was afraid to get wrong. But we managed. We were happy, in the way that feels fragile but real. It was us against the world. Harper was my entire world. She had these beautiful honey blonde curls that fell all the way to her waist, natural ringlets that caught the light like they'd been painted there. Strangers would stop us in the supermarket to comment on her hair. She'd blush and grip my hand, half proud, half shy. Those curls weren't just hair. They were her favorite part of herself. We had a whole routine built around them. The special shampoo and conditioner I bought even when it meant skipping Starbucks for a week. The satin pillowcase I ordered online so her curls wouldn't frizz. The detangling spray that smelled like berries. The way we'd sit on the couch with a cartoon playing, and I'd comb through her hair gently while she chattered about school and glitter and why the moon follows the car at night. She was meticulous for a 6-year-old. She knew how to scrunch her curls. She knew how to pat them dry, not rub. She'd ask, "Mommy, did I sleep pretty?" and show me how smooth they stayed. That hair was part of her identity, part of our bond, and my mother knew that. My mother, Vivian, had always been critical of my life choices. To her, everything about me screamed disappointment. Single motherhood at 25, a working class job, settling for a career that wasn't glamorous enough. Raising Harper without a father figure was, in her words, selfish and damaging. When Vivian married Gregory 3 years ago, I hoped things might get better. He seemed quiet, polite, the kind of man who stayed out of drama and refilled people's iced tea without being asked. He had a daughter from his first marriage, Bridget, who was 20. Bridget was everything I apparently wasn't. She was in beauty school, studying cosmetology, living at home while she finished her certification. Vivian adored her from the moment Gregory slipped that ring on her finger. Bridget is going places, my mother would say, looking right at me. Not like some people who settle for mediocre careers. I learned to absorb those jabs like secondhand smoke. They still hurt, but I pretended not to cough. Every family gathering became a showcase for Bridget. She did Vivian's hair, her makeup, her nails. Vivian would tilt her head this way and that in front of relatives, bragging about Bridget's natural talent, like she was already a celebrity stylist instead of a student who still had to practice on plastic heads. The truth was, Bridget might have had talent, but she had no discipline. She'd complain that her classes were too easy while failing practical exams. She'd criticize established stylists' work, calling their cuts basic, while taking uneven chunks out of her mannequin's hair. I'd seen her toss a ruined practice head into the trash and shrug. "She'll figure it out," Vivian would say. "Genius can't be boxed in." But what really made my skin crawl was how Bridget started watching Harper. It began at a family cookout last summer. We were in Vivian and Gregory's Scottsdale backyard. The air smelled like charcoal and sunscreen. Harper was running through the sprinklers, her curls bouncing and sticking to her cheeks, sunlight turning them into a halo. Bridget stood on the patio, paper plate in hand, staring at Harper like she was studying a pattern in fabric. "Those curls are wasted on a child," Bridget said casually, stepping closer to me. I stiffened. "She's 6. She appreciates them just fine." Bridget's eyes stayed on Harper. "She doesn't even know what she has. I could do so much with hair like that. The texture, the color, the length." She smiled, but it was cold. "It's perfect for advanced techniques." Something in her voice made the tiny hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Well, they're her curls," I said, keeping my tone as even as I could. "Not a training opportunity." Bridget's smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course. After that, she kept bringing it up. At Thanksgiving, she mentioned needing a real blonde to practice balayage on. At New Year's, she talked about how curly hair reacts to layering and thinning techniques, her gaze drifting to Harper every time she said experiment. I started keeping Harper away from her more deliberately. If Bridget went to the kitchen, we went to the living room. If she sat on the couch, we went outside. I pretended it was coincidence. It wasn't. Then came the Sunday that changed everything. Vivian invited us to brunch at her house in Scottsdale. I almost said no. There was a weight in my gut that I couldn't name, something in the way my mother's voice sounded too bright on the phone. But Harper loved her grandmother. Vivian was always sweet to her, even while cutting me down. I didn't want my issues with my mother to become Harper's burdens. So we went. We arrived at 11. Gregory was in the kitchen making French toast, the smell of cinnamon thick in the air. Vivian was setting the table, humming off key to some old song on the radio. "Where's Bridget?" I asked, scanning the room automatically. "Oh, she's at her boyfriend's place," Vivian said lightly. "She won't be joining us." That should have calmed me. Instead, the unease sharpened. The house felt too quiet, too staged. Harper and I settled in the den, flipping through channels until Harper landed on a cartoon. Vivian poked her head in. "Bianca, can you help me grab something from the garage?" she asked. "Gregory bought too many drinks and I can't carry them all." Nothing unusual. Vivian often recruited me for tasks while making snide comments about my supposed lack of handiness. I sighed, kissed Harper's head, and followed her toward the garage door. The moment we stepped into the hallway, everything changed. Vivian grabbed my arm and twisted it behind my back. "Mom, what are you doing?" I gasped. She was stronger than she looked. In one practiced motion, she shoved me against the wall, locking my arm up between my shoulder blades. Pain shot through my shoulder. "Bridget needs a model for her final practical exam," Vivian said, her voice low and calm in my ear. "Real hair, real client. She needs this to pass her course." "Let me go," I hissed, trying to yank free. Instead, she wrapped her other arm across my chest and around my throat, locking me in place. I could feel her heartbeat against my back, steady, determined. "Gregory!" I shouted. "Gregory, help!" He appeared at the far end of the hallway, eyes widening for a second as he took in the scene. Then his face went blank. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just watched. That's when I heard Harper scream, "Mommy!" In the den, Bridget had Harper pinned in the reading chair. One hand clamped down on my daughter's head, the other holding professional shears that glinted under the overhead light. "No, don't touch her!" I thrashed against Vivian's grip. "Harper, run!" But Harper couldn't run. The chair was wedged against the built-in bookshelf. Bridget's body blocked every path. Harper's little hands pushed at Bridget's wrists, legs kicking uselessly. "It's just a haircut," Bridget said calmly, as if explaining something to a toddler. "Stop being such a baby." And then she started cutting. "Stop! You can't do this!" I screamed. "Mom, let me go. She's terrified." "Bridget needs this experience," Vivian hissed, tightening her hold until it hurt to breathe. "Your daughter has hair to spare. She'll be fine." "She's 6. This is assault." "Don't be dramatic." I watched, helpless, as Bridget hacked into Harper's beautiful curls. These weren't careful, artistic cuts. They were rough, uneven chops that sent ringlets tumbling to the hardwood floor in golden spirals. Harper's screams turned into sobs, then into broken hiccups. She tried to twist away, but Bridget squeezed harder, fingers digging into her scalp. "Hold still or I'll mess it up worse," Bridget snapped. "You're already messing it up," I cried. "Stop. Please, stop." I fought like I've never fought in my life. I slammed my heel down onto my mother's foot. I drove my elbow into her ribs. I threw my head back, trying to hit her face. She grunted, cursed under her breath, but she didn't let go. "Gregory, for God's sake, do something," I gasped, vision blurring. He just shook his head. "Bridget needs to practice. It's not that serious." 5 minutes, maybe less, maybe more. It felt like a lifetime. When Bridget finally stepped back, her chest was barely heaving. Harper stumbled out of the chair and ran to me, sobbing. Vivian released me like she was letting go of a shopping bag, not her own daughter. I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around Harper. Her hair, what was left of it, was butchered, uneven chunks, the longest barely brushing her shoulders, the shortest hacked so close I could see her scalp. Her curls were broken, fraying at odd angles. But it was the look in her eyes that nearly killed me. Terror, betrayal, a wordless question I didn't know how to answer. My mother held me down while my stepsister cut my daughter's hair against her will. In that moment, something inside me went very, very still. Whatever family had meant before that day, it was gone. I don't remember buckling Harper into her booster seat. I just remember her reflection in the rearview mirror, eyes red and swollen, mouth trembling, hands hovering near what was left of her hair like she was afraid to touch it and make it more real. The engine idled in Vivian's driveway for a few seconds longer than it should have. My hands were shaking so hard on the steering wheel I could hear my nails clicking against the plastic. "Mommy?" Harper's voice was small, raw. "My hair." My throat tightened. "I know, baby," I whispered. "I know. We're leaving. We're never coming back here." I pulled out of the driveway. Vivian stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching us go like this was some minor disagreement we'd clear up by next Sunday. I didn't flip her off. I didn't scream. I just drove. Halfway down the street, Harper spoke again. "Why did Grandma let her do that?" she asked. "Why didn't she stop her?" The question hit harder than anything my mother had ever said to me. "Because she wanted it. Because she cared more about Bridget's practice than your pain. Because some people should never have been trusted with the word grandma." "I don't know, sweetheart," I said instead, blinking hard to keep my own tears from falling. "But she was wrong. What they did was wrong, and I'm going to make sure it never happens again." Harper sniffled. Do I still look like me?" I glanced at her in the mirror. Her curls, those soft, shining ringlets, were gone. In their place were brutal, hacked-off tufts sticking out at odd, broken angles. There were uneven patches where I could see bare scalp. She looked like a child who had been attacked, not given a haircut. "You look like my Harper," I said. "But your hair needs help. We're going to someone who knows what they're doing, someone kind." I grabbed my phone at a red light and did the one thing I could think of. I called the only salon I trusted. "Hi, this is Hair Artistry on Camelback," a woman answered. "Hi, this is Bianca. My voice cracked. "I need an emergency appointment for my daughter. Someone butchered her hair." There was a pause. "Bring her in," the woman said gently. "We'll make time." We walked into Hair Artistry 30 minutes later. The cool air smelled like hairspray and shampoo and faint citrus. Stylish women sat in chairs laughing, flipping through magazines, trusting the hands in their hair. Harper froze just inside the door. "It's okay," I murmured, guiding her forward. "We're safe here, remember? This is Miss Natasha's place." Natasha, mid-30s, dark hair and a sleek bob, the kind eyes I'd trusted for years, turned and saw us. Her smile faded when she took in Harper's appearance. "Oh my God," she whispered, coming closer. "Harper, sweetheart, what happened?" Harper's lower lip trembled. "Grandma's house," she managed. "Bridget, cut it." Natasha gently tilted Harper's chin up and examined her hair. I watched her face change as she turned Harper slowly, hands hovering near the broken curls. "This isn't a haircut," she said finally, her voice tight with anger. "This is butchery. Who did this?" "Someone," I said, my own anger simmering. "Someone who shouldn't have scissors near children." Natasha led Harper to a chair like she was handling glass. "I'm going to be very honest with you, Bianca," she said quietly. "There's not much I can save. To make this look intentional and not violent, we'll have to go short." "How short?" I asked. She glanced at Harper, then back at me. "Pixie cut. Maybe a little longer in the front. It'll be cute, but..." She didn't finish the sentence. "But it won't be what it was." "Can you do it in a way that feels like a choice?" I whispered. "Because nothing about what happened today was her choice." "Yes," Natasha said. "I can do that." She crouched in front of Harper. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm Natasha. Do you remember me?" Harper nodded weakly. "I'm really sorry someone hurt your hair," Natasha said. "That shouldn't have happened. But I'm going to help make it look really pretty, okay? I'm going to ask before I touch anything. If you want me to stop at any point, you tell me. Your body, your hair. Deal?" Harper blinked, then gave the smallest nod. "Deal." I stood behind them as Natasha worked, my hands gripping the back of the chair so tightly my knuckles went white. Every lock of hair that hit the floor felt like a tiny funeral. When it was over, Harper stared at herself in the mirror. The pixie cut was adorable. Soft around her face, longer at the top, the curls starting to regroup. She looked like a little fairy. She looked brave. She also looked like she'd survived something. "I don't look like me anymore," she whispered. My heart fractured cleanly in my chest. "You look like you," I said, my voice unsteady. "You look like my strong, beautiful girl who went through something awful and is still here." She swallowed hard. "I miss my long hair." "I know," I said, "and you're allowed to miss it, but it will grow back. And this time, no one touches it without your permission. Ever, okay?" "Ever?" she repeated. "Ever, I promised." That night, after Harper finally fell asleep with her hand resting protectively on her short curls, I sat alone at the kitchen table. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. the kind of quiet where your thoughts are louder than any argument. This is assault. This is abuse. They held you down. They hurt your child. And they feel justified. My phone buzzed with a text from my Aunt Lorraine. Heard there was drama at your mom's today. Call me. I stared at the screen until the message blurred. Instead of texting back, I got up quietly, went to Harper's room, and took photos. I photographed her butchered hair from earlier, the pieces I'd swept out of the car and spread on a white towel. I photographed the pixie cut Natasha had given her. I photographed the faint bruises forming on Harper's upper arms, where Bridget had gripped her. Then I went to the bathroom and photographed the red marks on my own arms, where my mother's fingers had dug in. I sat down at my laptop and opened a blank document. I wrote everything. The time we arrived, who was home, the lie about Bridget being at her boyfriend's apartment, the way Vivian grabbed my arm, the feel of her arm across my throat, Gregory watching and doing nothing, Bridget's exact words, Harper's screams, the timeline of the cutting, every detail I could remember, no matter how small. I wrote like I was afraid the truth would evaporate if I didn't trap it on the page. When I finished, my hands were numb. I stared at the screen, at the evidence folder open on my desktop, at my reflection in the dark window. Eyes too wide, face too pale. Are you really going to do this? A small voice in my head asked. Are you really going to press charges against your own mother? Another voice answered, colder. She pressed herself against you while your daughter screamed. I picked up my phone and dialed. Scottsdale Police Department, how can I help you? A calm voice answered. My name is Bianca Harrington, I said. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I need to report an assault on my 6-year-old daughter and on me. The officer asked questions. Dates, times, names. I answered mechanically, clinging to the facts like life rafts. So, to clarify, he said gently, your mother restrained you physically while your stepsister cut your child's hair against her will, causing bruising and distress. Yes, I said, my daughter was screaming. I begged them to stop. They refused. He sighed. Ms. Harrington, I'm going to be honest with you. This is technically battery on a minor and criminal restraint, but family-related cases can be complicated. They're often emotionally charged and hard to prosecute. Are you prepared for what that process might look like? I thought of Harper's tears in the rearview mirror, of Vivian calling me dramatic, of Bridget saying, hold still or I'll mess it up worse. Yes, I said, my daughter was held down and physically harmed. I want charges filed. Okay, he said. We'll take your report and start an investigation. We'll also need a statement from your daughter, if possible, and any documentation you have, photos, notes, medical evaluations. I have all of that, I said quietly. I've been documenting. After I hung up, the kitchen felt different, heavier, the kind of heavy that comes from closing a door you know you can't reopen. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my cousin Stephanie. Hey, heard something happened at your mom's. Are you okay? My fingers hovered over the screen. For the first time that day, I let myself type the truth without softening it. They assaulted Harper, I wrote. Mom held me down while Bridget hacked off her hair. Harper was screaming. I called the police. 3 dots appeared. Then, I'm so sorry. I believe you. Whatever you need, we're here. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear hit the back of my hand. Later, my mother's side of the family would say, I tore us apart when I picked up the phone and called law enforcement. But that night, as I watched my daughter sleep with one hand resting on her ruined but healing hair, I understood something clearly. The family had already torn itself apart the moment they decided Bridget's career mattered more than my child's consent. I just chose to stop pretending it was whole, and I chose war. The police officer who took our report was kind, but kindness doesn't soften the sting of walking your 6-year-old through an interview room. Harper sat on a padded chair too big for her, her short curls sticking out in tiny, confused waves. She clutched her stuffed llama, the one she'd begged me to bring in case my tummy gets scared. The officer knelt to her level. Harper, can you tell me what happened today? Only what you remember. Harper swallowed hard. Her little voice shook. Grandma held Mommy. Bridget cut my hair. She hurt me. I couldn't get away. I closed my eyes. It was one thing to witness your child's trauma. It was another to hear her describe it like a memory she'd have to carry forever. The officer nodded gently, jotting notes. That's very brave, sweetheart. Thank you. When it was my turn, I repeated everything I'd written down the night before. The twisting of the arm. Vivian's grip around my throat. Gregory watching. Bridget cutting rough, uneven chunks while Harper screamed. The officer asked questions. I answered. At some point, my voice detached from my body, calm, factual, like reading someone else's tragedy. When we were done, he closed his folder. "We'll move this to the district attorney," he said. "They'll decide on charges. With the photos and your daughter's statement, there's enough to proceed." I nodded. Good. He hesitated. "Family cases get messy. You might see backlash." I let out a hollow laugh. "It's already begun." Messy didn't begin to cover what happened next. My phone started buzzing before we even got home. "Aunt Lorraine, you're pressing charges? Against your own mother? Over a haircut?" "Uncle Ron, Bianca, don't be dramatic. Bridget is just a kid learning a trade." "Cousin Melody, you've always been sensitive. Don't ruin Grandma Vivi's life over this." The messages piled up, text after text, call after call. Everyone had an opinion about what I should feel. No one cared what Harper actually felt. Then came my cousin Stephanie, voice shaky but firm. "I'm horrified, Bianca. I have twin girls. If anyone did that to them, your mother or not, I'd burn the world down. We're on your side, whatever you need." Those words lodged somewhere deep in my chest, a lifeline. The next 2 weeks blurred together. Police interviewed Vivian, Bridget, and Gregory. They all told the same rehearsed story. It was just a haircut. Harper was being dramatic. I was overreacting because I never liked Bridget. Vivian only briefly held my arm because I was hysterical. They acted like Harper hadn't had bruises on her arms, like I hadn't been pinned so tightly I couldn't breathe, like terror somehow became imaginary if family committed it. But the officer called a few days later. "Ms. Harrington, based on evidence, the DA is moving forward. Charges are being filed." I exhaled, slowly, carefully. It felt like unclenching a fist I'd been holding for years. The first nightmare hit 3 nights later. She woke up screaming, clutching her head, sobbing that someone was cutting her again. I ran to her, gathered her into my arms, rocked her until her breaths came in trembly, uneven bursts. "Mommy, why didn't Grandma stop her?" she whispered. There were no gentle answers left inside me. But I did the one thing I could. I made an appointment with a child therapist. Dr. Winters was in her 40s, soft-spoken, with warm eyes and calm energy that settled into the room like a blanket. Her office was full of toys, sensory tools, art supplies, a safe place in a world that hadn't been safe enough. Harper sat gripping a stress ball as Dr. Winters observed her gently. "This kind of incident," the therapist later told me privately, "is a major boundary violation. It teaches children that adults can overpower them. It can create lasting trauma." My eyes filled. I should have protected her better. "You protected her the moment you documented everything, the moment you called the police," Dr. Winters said firmly. "You're showing Harper that her body matters." I left that appointment determined. No matter how loud the family got, no matter how ugly it became, I wasn't backing down. Then the online posts began. Vivian posted a long Facebook rant. "My daughter is making false accusations against me and Bridget. She's using my granddaughter for attention. Please pray for us." Hundreds of supportive comments followed. "Bianca always seemed unstable. She wants sympathy. Cutting hair isn't abuse. How cruel to ruin her own mother's life." Then Bridget chimed in on Instagram. "I was just trying to fix Harper's damaged curls. Bianca blew it out of proportion, and now she's ruining my cosmetology career." Her followers ate it up. Strangers DM'd me things I won't repeat. One message simply said, "Bad mother." I blocked them all, but the poison seeped into every corner of social media. Yet among the hate, there were messages from people who understood. "I'm a survivor of family violence. What happened to your daughter is abuse. Stay strong." "My mother let my cousin cut my hair as punishment. I'm still healing. You're doing the right thing. I believe your daughter." Those words mattered more than they knew. 3 weeks after the incident, the district attorney officially filed misdemeanor battery and child endangerment against Bridget, criminal restraint against Vivian. Gregory listed as a witness not charged. Vivian went ballistic. She called me from a blocked number, voice trembling with rage. "You ungrateful girl. After everything I've done for you, you're destroying our family." My voice didn't tremble back. "You destroyed it when you held me down while Harper screamed." Silence, then a click. I blocked the number. That night I sat on the couch, Harper asleep beside me, her small hand curled around my sleeve. I stroked her short curls gently. I'd spent years trying to earn my mother's approval, years trying to keep peace, swallow insults, pretend the tension was normal. But there was no going back now. Vivian had chosen a side, Bridget had chosen violence, Gregory had chosen silence, and I chose Harper. No matter what came next, that choice was final. The trial didn't feel like justice at first. It felt like interrogation. Victim, mother, daughter, liar, hysterical, overreacting. The labels shifted depending on who was talking. But underneath it all was the truth, and I clung to it like a rope in a storm. I barely slept. I'd lie awake beside Harper, her small body curled toward mine, breath warm against my arm, replaying everything in my head. Vivian's grip around my throat, Bridget's cold, focused breathing as she cut, Gregory just watching. Some nights, I would slip out of bed and pace the living room, touching the framed photos of Harper before the incident, those long honey curls cascading past her shoulders. I would trace the edges of the glass like I was afraid the memory might fade if I stopped holding on to it. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Ms. Cole, met with me several times to prepare. "She will lie," Ms. Cole warned, "and she will lie convincingly. You need to stay calm." "What if they twist it?" I asked. "What if they say Harper exaggerated?" Ms. Cole's expression softened. "Bianca, your daughter's recorded testimony is incredibly consistent for a child her age. The photos speak for themselves. The bruises speak for themselves. And frankly, Bridget didn't just cut hair. She used force. A jury won't ignore that." I wanted to believe her, but when the people who raised you are the ones calling you a liar, doubt seeps into places you didn't know existed. The courthouse was cold. Not physically, emotionally. Stark white hallways, polished tile floors, muted whispers. The kind of place where truth and pain both felt small. Harper didn't have to testify in person. The judge had agreed her recorded statement was enough. Thank God. But I still felt her absence beside me like a fresh bruise. Vivian walked into the courtroom wearing pearls and a navy dress, costume pieces intended to evoke dignity, not the woman who'd pinned her daughter against a wall. Bridget wore a blouse too formal for her age, hair ironed pinned straight, her face arranged into a mask of innocence. Gregory trailed behind them like a shadow, uncomfortable, silent, already shrinking from what was coming. I didn't look away when Vivian's eyes met mine. For the first time in my life, she looked unsure. Ms. Cole stood and laid out the timeline with brutal clarity. The invitation to brunch. The lie that Bridget wasn't home. Vivian restraining me. Bridget forcibly cutting Harper's hair. Harper's terror. Bruises documented on both me and my daughter. Natasha's professional assessment calling it violent cutting. Every fact slid across the room like a knife on glass. Then came Harper's recorded testimony. The screen flickered on. There she was, my little girl, in the detective's interview room, feet barely touching the ground, holding her stuffed llama. "My grandma held Mommy. I screamed. Bridget said stop being a baby. She cut my hair. I told her no. I cried." Her voice cracked. I gripped the edge of my seat so hard my knuckles throbbed. Several jurors shifted uncomfortably. One woman covered her mouth. Then came the photos. The bruises. The jagged chunks of hair in the sink. The butchered patches on Harper's scalp. The short pixie cut Natasha had given her. Even the bailiff winced. Natasha testified next. "This wasn't a haircut," she said firmly. "It was uncontrolled, forceful cutting. No trained stylist, no competent student would ever handle scissors this way, especially on a screaming child." Then Dr. Amanda Winters took the stand. "This kind of violation can permanently impact a child's sense of bodily autonomy," she explained. "Harper's anxiety symptoms are consistent with trauma, not a simple haircut." Every word was another stone added to the scale. Vivian went first. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "I was only trying to help Bridget. Bianca was hysterical. I held her for maybe a minute to calm her down." The prosecutor's eyebrows lifted. "And the bruises? The timeline showing 5 full minutes of restraint?" Vivian stuttered. I don't know. She bruises easily." A lie. I could feel it. Then Bridget. "I didn't mean to hurt Harper," she said, tears welling. "I thought she wanted a haircut. She sat in the chair. She was just fussy. And I'm failing school. I needed this. I didn't know she was scared." The prosecutor's voice cut sharper than scissors. "Miss Bridget, are you aware the child was begging you to stop?" Bridget froze. Silence spread across the courtroom like spilled ink. The jurors saw it. Everyone saw it. Then the prosecutor played one last recording. Harper's tiny voice on the 911 call made by the investigating officer. "She cut my hair and I cried and she didn't stop." Bridget's face crumpled. Gregory shuffled to the stand, hands shaking. I didn't think it was that serious," he whispered. Vivian said Bianca was being dramatic. I didn't want to get involved in drama. Drama. Watching a child being assaulted was drama. The jury exchanged looks that tasted like disgust. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. 4 hours that felt like 4 years. When they returned, my heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my palms. The four women stood, voice steady. On all counts, we find the defendants guilty. A noise left my throat, half sob, half exhale. The room tilted with relief and grief and years of unspoken hurt. The judge didn't sugarcoat anything. Bridget, 18 months probation. Anger management. Restitution covering Harper's therapy. Cosmetology license application denied for the foreseeable future. Vivian, probation. Mandatory family violence counseling. A 3-year restraining order preventing contact with Harper or me. Gregory wasn't charged, but the judge's glare said enough. Mr. Warner, your failure to intervene is noted. Children rely on adults for protection. You provided none. He shrank back. Good. Everything exploded. Vivian was uninvited from half the family gatherings. Some relatives sided with her, calling me cruel, disloyal. Others were horrified and cut ties with her entirely. Bridget's career? Dead before it started. No salon in Phoenix would touch her. She ended up working retail, posting vague Instagram stories about fake victims ruining lives. Gregory's marriage to my mother eroded almost immediately. They separated within a year, divorced 6 months later. Vivian blamed me for everything. She destroyed my life, she told anyone who would listen. But that night, as Harper slept curled against my side, her breath soft and steady, I realized something. I had destroyed nothing. I had only removed myself and my daughter from people who chose violence dressed as family. And I'd do it again, 1,000 times. For a while, things were quiet. Not peaceful, not healed, just quiet. The kind of quiet where you finally hear the things you'd been too overwhelmed to notice before. The way Harper hesitated before walking into a bathroom with a mirror. The way she flinched when someone reached toward her head. The way she whispered, "Do I look weird?" when no one else was listening. Trauma speaks softly at first, but I heard every word. Harper kept going to therapy with Dr. Winters. Week after week, little by little, she reclaimed pieces of herself that Bridget's scissors had stolen. But just when I started to think the worst was behind us, Vivian found another way to hurt her. It was a Sunday afternoon. Sunlight spilled across the living room floor. Harper sat on the couch with her tablet, watching cartoons, laughing at something a cartoon pony said. Then she paused the video, frowned, and turned toward me. "Mommy?" she asked softly. "Grandma messaged me." I froze. Vivian was under a 3-year restraining order. She wasn't allowed within 50 feet of my daughter, let alone her screen. "What do you mean, messaged you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Harper held out her iPad. A notification was still on the screen. Instagram, from a username I didn't recognize. No profile picture, no posts. But the message preview was enough. "You lied about me, Harper. You made everyone hate me. Why would you do that to your grandma?" My stomach turned cold. I took the iPad gently, scrolled. Dozens of messages. "You need to tell the truth. Your mommy is making you lie. You ruined my life. Family forgives. Tell the judge you exaggerated. You owe me." Every message was a knife disguised as guilt. Harper's voice quivered. "Mommy, did I do something bad? Grandma says—" "No," I said instantly, pulling her into my arms. "You did nothing wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing." Her small body shook against my chest. That was all I needed. I took screenshots, saved everything, then called Harper's victim advocate, then the Scottsdale Police Department. Vivian had violated her probation, crossed a legal boundary as easily as she'd crossed moral ones long before. And this time, the consequences were immediate. 48 hours later, Vivian was arrested for harassment and probation violation. 45 days in Maricopa County Jail. No bail, no excuses. No one left willing to defend her. When she finally got out, she didn't message, call, or show up unannounced. She vanished from our lives like a shadow pulled away by the sun. And for the first time in years, I felt safe. About a month after Vivian's sentencing, my phone buzzed with a number I recognized but had blocked long ago. Gregory. I let it ring, but he called again and again. Finally, I answered, only because I wanted it done. His voice was strained, small. "Bianca, I'm so sorry. I should have stopped her. I was a coward." "Yes," I said simply. "You were." "I miss Harper," he continued. Can I still have a relationship with her?" I almost laughed, not out of humor, out of disbelief. "You let someone assault her while you watched," I said. "Do you think I'd ever let you near her again?" Silence, then a soft, pathetic, "I understand." And I blocked him again. Other relatives reached out eventually, usually near Thanksgiving or Christmas. You should forgive for the sake of family. Maybe Harper will want her grandmother back someday. You're being too harsh. I didn't respond. Because here's the truth. A family that excuses violence against a child isn't family. Blood doesn't outweigh safety. Shared DNA doesn't excuse harm. Harper deserved better, and so did I. We started building something new, something ours. Cousin Stephanie, who showed up the day of the trial with snacks, tissues, and unwavering loyalty. Natasha, who treated Harper's hair and heart with tenderness. Dr. Winters, who gave Harper her voice back 1 week at a time. Friends from school and work who brought meals, sent flowers, offered babysitting, and said, "What your mother did was unforgivable." These became Harper's real aunts, her real support system. People who understood that family is not an obligation, it's a choice. And we chose each other. 2 years passed. Harper turned 8. Her pixie cut grew into soft, shoulder-length curls, still shorter than before, but healthy, springy, glowing in the light. One evening, while brushing her hair before bed, she looked at me in the mirror. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby?" "Can I grow it long again? Like before?" My throat tightened. Not in sadness, in pride. "Of course," I said, smiling. "It's your hair. Your choice. Always." She beamed. "Can Miss Natasha trim it so it grows healthy?" "Absolutely." We went to hair artistry the next weekend. Natasha greeted her with a warm hug, walking her through every step, asking permission before touching a single curl. Harper nodded confidently. "I'm not scared," she said. "I can see that," Natasha smiled. Sitting in that salon chair, the same kind of chair where her trauma began, Harper didn't shrink or tremble. She sat tall, steady, brave. When Natasha finished, Harper hopped down and examined her reflection in every mirror on the way out. "My curls are coming back," she whispered. "They're mine again." I knelt beside her. "They always were, Harper," I said softly. "They always were." That night, after tucking her into bed, she wrapped her arms around my neck. "Thank you for protecting me, Mommy." "Always, sweetheart," I whispered. "Always." I sat beside her bed long after she fell asleep, watching her breathe, watching the curls resting softly against her cheek. We had survived. We had healed. We had rebuilt our world from the ashes of betrayal. So now I ask you, the one listening, watching, reading this story, if your parent helped someone assault your child, would you ever allow them back into your lives? My answer is simple. Never.